Seminole County tax deed sales. Welcome back. For sure, folks, everyone's going to give you advice about tax lien sales and tax deed property auctions. All right. These auctions confuse people, and there's a big difference between the two. So this is going to take just a little bit of study. It's not difficult. So those people that are giving you advice, some of them are old, some of them are young, some of them are relatives, some are even people that you don't even like, they're going to give you advice. The important thing is to realize that you need to get advice from qualified people. Why do you need that? Well, the other people can't help you. Your relatives can't help you. Why can't they help you? Because they haven't studied tax liens and deeds. They're not bad people. They just don't know about tax liens and deeds. So how did I get my help? I got people that are already in the business to help me. I got coaches to help me. You need to do the same thing. You're going to need a guide to get through this the first time. Now, there's plenty of opportunities. There's lots of opportunities. In Florida alone, there'll be 1 million tax lien certificates. All right, you need to think about a coach or a mentor, or you're going to miss the boat. You need someone to help you out. All right, now maybe you're an entrepreneur, you want to make a lot of money and get rich. I completely understand that. Or maybe you want to be famous. Well, stop dreaming about it and get yourself someone that's going to help you along the way. Florida tax liens and tax deeds are very popular. Newcomers are always confused because the state of Florida offers two distinctly different auctions. Actually, in both instances, they're really not sales, they're auctions, but they always seem to be called sales. So today what we're talking about the Seminole County tax deed sale. It really is an auction. Okay, I'm Ted Thomas, and I've been involved in tax lien certificates and tax defaulted property for over 30 years. All right, so we're going to talk about tax deeds and tax defaulted property and how you can get involved in that business. Now, the auctions are taking place in all 3,000 counties across the United States. So there's more than 3,000 counties that will have auctions. You just need to learn how the auctions take place and whether they're called auctions or sales or whatever. But they're always going to be an auction either to the highest bidder or to the lowest bidder, and I'll discuss that in just a few minutes. So this episode is answering your question about Seminole County tax deed sales. At this point, I should explain that Seminole County is just one of the 3 counties that make up the city of Orlando in Florida. The other 2 counties are Orange County and Osceola County. I'll be right back with more information. Okay, Florida has 2 auctions. The first auction, the county will sell tax lien certificates. Now, those are nothing more than pieces of paper like I'm holding up right now. It's just a piece of paper, and it's a tax lien certificate. All right, they're sold at auction, and the auctions are online and they're offline. Just depends upon the county. Seminole County is allowed to do it both ways. Now, tax deed auctions are considerably different. All right, now a tax deed auction, what that means is you're going to get a deed to the property and you're going to get ownership of the property. All right, the point I'm trying to make is that when you buy at a tax lien certificate auction, you have no right to go on the property. You can't go in the property. You can't be on the property in any way. All you're buying is a certificate that's going to pay you interest, okay? All right, so how do you learn this kind of stuff? You really need to think about having a coach, because that's how you're going to be successful and make real money in this business. But there's 2 auctions in Florida. They're distinctly different. All right, now you don't know what you don't know, so don't just jump in and start spending money. Try to figure it out ahead of time. If you can't, get yourself someone that's either a guide or a mentor or a coach that's going to share the good answers with you so that you don't make a lot of mistakes. Now, in my own experience, when I started asking successful people what I should be doing next and how I should be doing, when they gave me answers, I took the time to make notes because it made a big difference and it accelerated my learning process. So for sure, starting in a business can be pretty darn intimidating. You don't know the answers, you don't know what decisions to make, so why not ask people that have experience and they've been successful in business to help you out. Now, I'm talking about people that don't get a coach or don't get a mentor. They actually miss the boat, and it takes them twice as long to earn because they don't have any help. All right, now, Florida is unlike other states. In other states, when they have a tax lien certificate auction, it's different than Florida. So today I'm talking about Seminole County tax deed sales. But first I have to explain the tax lien certificates, because if the certificate isn't paid ultimately, it's going to end up at a Seminole County tax deed sale or whatever county that happens to be. All right, so here's how the legal process works in Florida. There's 2 auctions. The first auction, you can buy a tax lien certificate. That does not allow you to go on the property. You can't push the people out. You can't go give them any advice. You just bought a piece of paper, and then you have to wait. Now, that certificate allows the people to stay on the property. So I always say in property, in the state of Florida, the property owners really have an advantage because the state is very benevolent. They let people stay in the property even though they're in default. All right, so they haven't lost anything. They don't have the money to pay their taxes, so they stay on the property, and they can stay there up to 2 years. So if you buy a tax lien certificate in Florida, that certificate could stay outstanding for at least 2 years. All right, now at the end of the 2 years, what are you going to do? Well, what you have to do in Florida is you have to tell the county that you want them to have another auction. And what they're going to do is they're going to re-auction the property. Now, that doesn't mean the tax lien certificate property is going away from you. What's really happening is they're going to now sell it, and when they sell it, they're going to make enough money to not only pay the back taxes you paid for the certificate, but to pay the accrued interest. So how are you going to get the money if the people didn't pay? What you're going to do in most other states, you're going to get the property. But in Florida, there's a second auction. In other words, that second auction is going to be called the Seminole County Tax Deed Sale. It's really an auction, but they're going to have another auction. Now, when they have that second auction, if they get more than what was owed on the taxes and the accrued interest, then that new buyer who paid the higher price is going to get the property. You won't get the property, but you're not in jeopardy because your money's still fine. And now the county will have money because they sold the property to pay you whatever you paid for your tax lien certificate plus the interest. I know this is confusing. People have a lot of trouble with this kind of business, but Florida has 2 auctions. So I'm discussing Seminole County tax deed sales. But before I can get to the tax sales, I can't even get to them until you understand the tax lien certificates. All right, so before the property ever gets to the Seminole County tax deed sale, which is really an auction, before that ever even happens, there has to be a tax lien certificate auction. All right, the tax lien certificate auction, when you buy that certificate, you could own it for 2 years. The people stay on the property. They're not kicked off the property. Even though they're in default, they stay on the property, and they can stay there up to 2 years. Now, experience shows us that 97% of the people in that period of time, they'll find the money to pay their taxes. They pay their taxes. They pay their interest. They pay any fees or penalties. And so you get paid off with that tax certificate. However, there are times when people don't pay the tax lien certificate. Now, if they don't, the treasurer has a whole challenge on their hand. What are they going to do? Well, what the treasurer's going to have to do is they're not going to get any money in, so they're going to require the tax lien certificate holder to request from the county another auction. So there's going to be a second auction. At the second auction is when the money will come in. And when it does come in, what will happen is it'll pay off the tax lien certificate holder, and it'll move the people off the property, and the new owner will own that property. It is a little complex, and I know that. Keep in mind, the owner could come forward on a tax lien certificate at any time and pay the tax lien certificate and not have any lien or encumbrance against the property. They're staying on the property for the full amount of time that they're there. But here's how the Seminole County tax deed sale really works. So first, it's an auction. The auction will be properties that are in default. Now, the properties that are in default, the county has confiscated the property. They've put them on an auction list, and now they want to get them sold. What are they going to do? They're going to discount them by 60, 70, 80%, and they're going to put them up for sale. All right, so the Seminole County tax deed sale will be an auction. They will auction the properties for the highest bidder. So if someone comes in and pays the back taxes, if that's the starting bid, that's what they're going to get. If someone bids 10 cents, 20 cents, 30 cents on the dollar, they'll get the property. And when they get the property, there'll be no mortgage and there'll be no trust deed. It will be eliminated from the property by the county sheriff and of course the treasurer. All right, so the highest bidder is the one that wins in the Seminole County tax deed sale. It's just like a regular auction, except they call it the tax deed sale. All right, now my final words are, I don't want you to make mistakes at auctions. So don't go to auctions and start buying properties unless you've had boots on the ground. There could have been a big crisis that you didn't know about. What if there was a fire on that property? What if there was a hurricane on there? What if there was a flood on the property? What if there was a pig farm next door? All those things could happen. So you always want to look at the property. Second big mistake that people make is they don't know their exit strategy. So when you look at that property, you've got to look at the other properties around it so that you know what you can sell it for. Otherwise, you could easily bid too high. You get too excited, you bid too high. You want to buy low, you want to sell low, and you want to sell fast. I'm Ted Thomas. I'll see you on the next video.